Hey everyone, welcome back. Last time we were building the Tamiya 148 Easy 8. This time we're going to be taking a look at painting. So, one of the challenges of Hong Kong is not having much room, so I had to paint outside, as you can see here. Not sure whose clothes they belong to, certainly not mine. But we're just applying a primer using Tamiya surface primer. Now onto the base coat. So we're just using olive drab, the Japanese ground self-defense force. Everything in regards to the airbrush is mixed with about 50-50 thinner, just a Tamiya thinner. And all we're doing here is just getting a good solid covering over the whole tank, as you'll see.
Lunch, Lady Doris. Have you got any grease?
Yes, we do.
Then grease me up, woman!
Okie dokie.
Also doing the tracks and running gear, just giving everything a good solid coat. And after it's dried a bit,
Nice.
next up we're on to shadows. So using the same olive drab and a bit of flat black, we're just applying this to any places where shadows would naturally form, so any creases, any under areas that would be covered by shadows, around any details here. Also on the tracks, so the undersides of the running gear as well. Now moving on to the highlights. So this is using the same olive drab, but using some buff as well, so just to make a lighter tone. And again, similar to the shadows, we're just going to apply this to the tops, so anywhere that would naturally catch light. Now onto applying decals. Realise that I didn't really stick to the cast steel textures, as you'll see.
Come on, little one. Come on. Come on, little one. Come on. Come on, then. Come on, then. Very good. Push. Push. Very good. God. Push. Come on. Come on. Come on, then. There you are. There you are. They imprint on the first creature they come in contact with. That's it. Helps them to trust me.
Okay, now moving on to a pin wash, so just using oil paints, just a mixture of black and brown I think in this one. Just going to apply this to any details. So one thing that I'm learning, as I say I'm still fairly new at this, is it's really not one effect that will make a difference. It's really just a combination of just applying layers and layers and layers of effects to get a really good result. Okay, so after that pin wash, we're also now going to apply the oil dot filter. So this is really just applying a number of just different oil paints over, and you're really just putting a filter. So as you blend this in with some enamel wash, it'll provide a slight coloration to the area that you've applied it to, and provide a bit of a worn weathering effect.
Brilliant! I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Don't have to be too careful with this, just apply it over. As you can see, it just blends it in. And done this all over the vehicle. As you can see, just using some thinner just to blend it all in. Okay, so after that kerfuffle with the decals, they ultimately ended up not sticking to it, so I decided to cut out my own. I was originally going to use masking tape, but that didn't seem to work. But luckily I had a spare decal, which I ended up just cutting out, as you'll see in the next shot here. So a bit of masking tape, and then just applying some Tamiya white paint, just a flat white. So the result wasn't as good as I'd hoped for, but ultimately I just ended up doing some more heavy weathering on it to cover it up later on. But lesson learned for next time, need to stick it down better. So yeah, so after I'd applied those decals, I went over and put another oil dot filter on it, just to make it look a bit more worn. Now moving on to chipping effects, so this is just using a slightly lighter tone and using a sponge, just removing some of the excess paint. You just go over any areas that would likely have natural kind of wear and tear and chips. After I'd done that with a sponge, just went over with a fine brush just to add some extra details. In regards to the weathering, definitely on the heavier end of kind of wear and tear on this tank by the end of it, but I don't know, I think it looked cool. So in these nice blurred shots you can see the end result, or not. Okay, so after you've applied those first layer of chips, then you're using German grey, and this is really just kind of, you're going over those areas and just applying a heavier chipping effect if it's chipped back to the steel. As an example. So just going over with a brush, really just kind of tracing over all those pieces that you painted with the sponge. I find this technique is probably one of the best kind of weathering techniques I've found so far. Really creates a nice effect. Takes a bit of time, but it's nice, relaxing. So after you've applied those 2 layers of chipping, then going over with a rust. So last time I used this I wasn't too happy with the results, but I mixed this enamel rust paint that I have with some oil paints and then thinned it down a bit. Definitely got some better results. It's very subtle. Again, don't want it to be too extreme, but has a nice effect on top of the chipping. So again, just applying it over where I'd previously applied those chips. And again, just layering effects on top of each other. Okay, so this is a really nice effect. So I saw this on Night Shift's channel, and I'll link the description to the video and where he makes this and shows you how to do it and apply it. But basically it's using acrylic paint, soap and water. You can create these streaking or dust effects. Really looks cool. You have to apply many layers of it. It really provides a nice effect, and without the use of any pigments you can get a decent kind of mud and rain streak effect. And again with this one, just building up layers and layers has a nice effect. So you can see here, it's still drying slightly, but you get some decent streaking effects. Also applied the same effects to the turret. Again, weathering that poorly painted star. Onto the tracks, so first just using flat earth just to cover the outside of the tracks and also the insides. After that was done, just applying some dry brushing, so with this flat brown, again just putting some paint on, removing some excess, and just dry brushing over the top. So while I had quite a lot of mud effects, I didn't want to overdo it. As you'll see, it's ultimately going to be placed on a road, so I didn't want to have an excess amount of dirt. Moving on to the final piece, which was the stowage. So just applying different colours. So you can see I'm using brown, desert yellow, flat earth. Just apply these colours for the different items that are stowed on the back. Also then applied a bit of a oil wash over, so just using some enamel thinner and some black oil paints. Just ended up being a heavy wash of these, just to give them a more worn effect. I think I also then went over with the mud mixture, the the dry rain effects just to blend it together. And that was pretty much it. So here we have. I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is my first real serious attempt at armor. Definitely looks beaten up, worn. I'm really happy with how the effects came out. On the next video, we'll be taking a look at building a diorama for this. So, as mentioned in earlier videos, it's going to be based off the Carentan map, and it turns out pretty cool. So, I hope you'll join me for the next one. Till then, take it easy.